Oh, hi guys. I just was sitting here a minute thinking about everything we've all been through. I know sometimes you probably do that too. Not only with your life, if you're older and you've had an sundry of jobs and careers like I have, or you may be single, divorced, or whatever, dating, whatever, like just reviewing your whole life. The good times, the bad times, the fun, or maybe you're like thinking about the pandemic and everything that we've all been through. It's been a lot. Think about how all of us have been through so much, and just, if you're here for a reason. I personally believe in the afterlife, and I'm a Christian. I was raised Catholic, and I'm also, Catholic is supposedly the original Christianity, but I believe all that. But there's still so many things that I still want to do in my life that I haven't been successful at that I really would like to find success, more personal success. And like a lot of people of my generation, we were more like work hard, play hard, and then go out to happy hour or whatever, if you were still single or divorced or whatever, um, go out dancing. But there comes a time in life when you have to kind of think, is this all there is? And also, with everything going on, most of us, or a lot of us, maybe don't have the money or the means to do all that or the interest in it. I mean, a lot of people that could afford to do all that all the time have kind of lost interest in all that. And it's so bizarre how we can just get on the internet now and talk to each other this way. But it is a really thought provoking time to think about everything we've been through. And a lot of us feel like we've been sort of disappointed in some of the things that have happened. And so don't ever put anybody on a pedestal, guys. Of course, never put yourself on a pedestal or your friends or anybody in any role on a pedestal. But that's up to you how you want to deal with your life. But as far as social media, if somebody is really into it, I don't really get into it with people. I mean, I just sort of, like, you can always pretend, like, well, I didn't see that comment. It must have been the algorithm. Or, like, one of my older friends um, used to say, even out in public, when she thought somebody was trying to start something or say something, you can always pretend like you couldn't hear what they said. Like, I'm older. Oh, I didn't hear. Or if somebody thinks that you have a conspiracy theory, you could always just say, well, I'm just like a crazy old person or older person or whatever. But, like I mentioned before, and a lot of people have mentioned it, a lot of things have turned out to be true. But we have to be careful because we are not paid to present the news unless we're in the news business. It's been several years since I was in that business, decades even, really. Um, but we can all kind of like be citizen journalists nowadays. But, we don't really know who owns all these things. I mean, if we don't like the way it's run, then you have to maybe just create your own media outlet. But if you're like, I hate to use the word struggling or challenged by, I was watching a video by George Carlin. He was speaking to um, some people at a meeting it was in Washington, D.C. back in 1999. And he was speaking before some media and attorneys and different things. And I thought it was so interesting. He said, well, we don't have problems now. We call them challenges. And that's kind of a good way to look at it, though, because we're wanting to be positive, and you have to be, though, because otherwise you'll just end up in a downward spiral, and um, especially if you had some things happen to you growing up. And I decided to make this video. I was getting ready to watch this movie. It's on YouTube. You've probably seen it before. The Lolita movie, which I might still watch, but it's kind of a bittersweet movie because it reminds me of some things, that I went through growing up, and everybody's had some kind of a childhood bizarre experience. Um, I don't know. Hollywood has a big impact on people with the films and the writing, and but it's important to maybe develop stories about all these things that people can go through. And I didn't even realize until I watched just part of it. It was on YouTube. I'll probably finish it. But the first part of the movie, Jeremy Irons talks about how he was so upset by, I guess he lost his first little girlfriend as a young boy, and it's like his whole life he was like trying to recreate that, and that's how he got into trouble with this whole thing. But anyway, and that was back in a different time too, and but we never know who we're going to run across in life. Life can be so strange, and we never are totally prepared for the people that we run across in our lives. And it made me think about the time that I ran into the infamous Harvey, but I didn't even realize who he was years ago. The first time I moved out to LA, I was in acting classes and such, but until I saw his card, and then actually several years later, the whole scenario sort of got pieced together in my mind, but I was able to talk myself out of it. I have sort of cured myself from, well, actually, it's been different programs and help and counseling, some things that I went through in childhood, and I'm more calm, and of course, I'm older now, and I've gotten more into my, instead of parasympathetic nervous system, more into my sympathetic nervous system. I hope I have that right. But basically, the more calm you are, it's better for your health. Like my grandmother said, as she got older and older, and she lived to be 99, she didn't let things bother her as much because she felt like it wasn't as good for her heart. But as the more calm you are, the more you can think clearly. And but when I was much younger, I had like a nervous laugh, and I was always like wound up, and like even 20 years ago, the first time I moved out to LA, I was sort of like still, wound up and talking a lot, especially if I'd had some drinks or coffee, even, or espresso, not just espresso, but coffee. And, but I was more like a nervous, like just over talking. And up until recently, actually, I've been kind of like that too. But as I've healed more and more, I've kind of gotten away from that. But when you're in that kind of mode, uh, there is an advantage of it because you can talk yourself out of situations that are maybe potentially harmful for you. But you can also talk people just as effectively by being calm, and sometimes that is more powerful. Not just in acting, but in real life, and you can really basically kind of stay calm and maybe accomplish more too. Because as I move from different jobs and careers, and I'm challenged with different issues with my money situation versus trying to make more money versus I'm older, I still want to pursue the kind of work I want, plus writing maybe, but writing is difficult, but maybe it's difficult because I tell myself it's difficult, but um, writing is something that to me is such a singular thing. Like you have to spend a lot of time alone, and I feel like I need to spend more time with other people. Um, but I do spend enough time alone that I could be writing too. I think writing is helpful even if you never finish a script or story, and even just to get your thoughts down or your goals or your schedule or your to-do list or whatever you're trying to do with writing. A lot of us are writing away on social media when maybe we could be writing a book with all these things that we communicate. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I think it's good to talk with people on social media, but I think sometimes I think it's good to take a break from it. And I know it's kind of ironic because here I am making a YouTube video, but I do think that this is a little more positive than just constantly writing and texting people that you don't know, because if you can make new friends online, that's really even better, see, to me. And I have made some new friends online, and some of them I've ended up meeting them in real life, after meeting them online, or I have through social media, or we do Zoom meetings. We're in different constructive groups, or maybe work goals and things, or basically just talking on the phone with people that you've met online, even if they don't live in your area. You can make phone calls, on your Wi-Fi and everything. But it's a big, you know, it's a big place, and it's the whole world, and we have to be very careful. Um, but just think about everything we've all been through, and maybe just try to calm down and yourself and not get so upset. I know a lot of people really just think it's their way or the highway, as far as philosophy and everything. There are several ways to do the same thing, and there are several ways to think about something. And sometimes, in some situations, in my opinion, everyone is right. It's just like a different version, but somehow everybody tries to make it more wound up. But I think that that's kind of like the nervous energy that we've been in for a long time. And but I think we might be getting out of that, because that has not always served us well. It's you know just having our wheels spinning all the time. I mean, that's not a great way to do things, and it's more of an addiction cycle that people get into too. You know, um, and thinking, well, then I have to calm myself down with a drink or a snack or whatever it is, but or worse stuff, that people do. But I just thought I'd mention that it's kind of like when you get older, you sort of calm down from a lot of that stuff too. You learn how to take your time, because sometimes, like the old timey expression, haste makes waste. And but sometimes we do have to work harder. Um, I was watching an earlier video, a voiceover teacher that I've taken some classes from, but they got to be a bit pricey. But I do need to work more on my voiceover auditions, in addition to my on-camera auditions, in addition to my job interviews and all that, but in trying to get more work and everything. But basically, he talked about how um, you have to be productive, kind of like our dreams are seductive, but then the work and action plan to get there is productive. You have to have the dreams, but then in order for those to become reality, you have to be basically productive. And it got me thinking about some things that I've done in life where I've thought sometimes I've been successful to a point and I pushed and worked and worked and worked, and then things started happening for me, and then I got kind of nervous about it, see, and thought, well, that's going to be a lot, and maybe I won't ever have time to have fun or do anything else, or basically it would be a lot to keep up at that pace. Once you get to a certain level of success, sometimes you have to keep up that pace, and it's not always easy. Kind of like when I worked for some small papers, and then when I was an editor of some small papers too, I had to constantly come up with stories, and we had pages and pages to fill, and constantly have to just go in and create ideas and stories all the time, and you're worried that you're just going to have to keep doing it all, and it can be kind of overwhelming. So, but I was also watching another video from someone that I had taken a class from, Justice Calabro, I believe. He's a younger guy that but anyway, he's making a lot more Instagram videos because he's realizing that to get where he wants to be, he needs to make a lot more videos. And it reminds me of Jim Rohn, when success coach, and I even got to see him speak one time when I was a Prudential agent. How basically, if you're worried about becoming successful, you can do it because you can always outwork everybody. That's another way to do it. If you're really going to outwork everybody, you will get there. Even with something tough like selling insurance on a commission, calling more people, seeing them, or as an actor, keep training, keep getting better, keep going on your auditions, keep networking and meeting more people, and or if it's diet and exercise, or just even with your housework, or or trying to maybe live somewhere else, or even in dating. I mean, I'm a much older single lady, but I'm divorced from years ago. But that's a whole other thing, that I went through to finally get out of certain loops with that after healing from childhood trauma and everything. But basically, I've met people that have really met their mates by they just kept pushing and going on dates and meeting people and getting on all the dating sites, and just approached it almost like they would a business, or a sales calls or meetings or auditions or whatever. But um, I'm sort of like out of that mode now. I believe that if I'm meant to have someone, I'll just meet him, you know, and I quit worrying about it so much. And I know a lot of people that are happy with the person they're with, and then I've met a lot of people that are unhappy, or they're just given up because they've been through so much with it. I have not given up on that. It's just that I'm not going to knock myself out for it because life is too short. And you have to learn to enjoy yourself. And the biggest challenge for me with all the stuff we've been through is when you don't have like as much maybe financial success as you used to, or whatever. It's like finding things to do that are very inexpensive or free or whatever. And we live in a very materialistic world, and we feel like we have to have money to go do fun things, like go to the movies, go to the go out to clubs, go out to dancing, go here, go there, go out to eat and everything. But most people can't afford all that right now, and even people that can are leery of everything because you know, with things going on in the world, or maybe it's not as safe, or maybe the things that are in the food, and we want to, you know, a lot of people are just going more to farmers markets and watching everything, and I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But of course, you can't live your whole life in fear either. And so, anyway, you know me, if you've ever listened to my videos, I could continue to talk for some time. In fact, I was going to just make like a 30-second to a minute video, but I just had to make that. The general theme is we've all been through a lot,